This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games!
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby! We ain't done yet! We ain't done yet! You like that? You like that? I like that!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And this is a Ruckus and The Menace podcast sports production. And today we are going to start off with the starting lineup. Then we'll move on to our Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll go into our double high heat this week, as we will not have a color commentary because of the fact that the high heat is double trouble, as we should say. And then we end the episode on our stud and dud of the week. But to start things off, do you want to go ahead with the first one?
All right, so we're going to start with a little bit of housekeeping and some announcements. The continuation of March to October, that is still going on. They will release every Thursday with the exception of Labor Day weekend. We are moving. We moved the finales of the March to October up to cover ourselves for the Madden Super Bowl races in our prime slots. The college football series, the JMU dynasty, or at least the dynasty mode of from G5 to Natty, has taken off. And Road to Glory releases this Wednesday. And I still have not told you where I signed yet. And I'm sure that you will very well know it from the notable alumni that have made the NFL from this university, especially at a particular position. And that position that I'm going to tell you, tight end. The university I've gone to is more notable for its tight ends that have made it to the NFL.
All right.
And so the James Madison series is kicked off. Road to Glory this week. Super Bowl races, or at least our roads to the Super Bowl that will be named. Because have you confirmed that your Super Bowl run's name?
So it's kind of a theme with the Bears, but we just named it Super Bear Run. Alex did a tremendous job on the thumbnails for that for both of our
yes. A special shout out to Alex, man, and very special thank yous for getting especially the college football ones done in such a good fashion. Oh man, have you seen the new framework especially the JMU one. Especially the JMU one.
Beautiful.
The JMU one's good. The Road to Glory one, I kind of wanted something a little more generic, but it kind of worked out. If you've looked.
You guys will probably definitely like my thumbnails for the Super Bear Run. I think you'll get a good kick out of it, but we'll save it for later.
And I will tell you that my title for mine, I'm not surprised to actually say this one, but it also plays right into the old fight song for the franchise. It is called a New Era in Old DC. New Era in Old DC because it is truly the first season with the new owner truly at the reins, a new GM, a new head coach, new coordinators. So it is new quarterback. So there's a whole lot of new going on in what is famously known in the fight song of Old DC, which is the direction I went. But now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, we now can move on, and actually our major transaction log pieces come from the NFL. So it's nice to kind of like transition from football, especially in us talking about Madden, into pro football as a whole. And it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame week that just passed. Notable enshrinees include Julius Peppers, Andre Johnson, Devin Hester, Dwight Freeney, Randy Gradishar, Patrick Willis, and Steve McMichael. Notably of the 85 Bears, that Super Bowl Shuffle Bears that he was a part of with Mondo. Any of those names clearly stick out for you?
For sure. Julius Peppers, Andre Johnson really kicked our ass when we played the Texans back in the day. Devin Hester was just known to be a freak when it came to special teams, being able to return kicks for touchdowns, especially in the Super Bowl.
The U from the U.
And then Dwight Freeney was really well known early on whenever Peyton Manning was a Colt because of how awesome his defense was.
Oh, he was one half of one of the best pass rushing attacks in the league for years. Because you had Freeney on one side and Robert Mathis on the other. And both of them were good. Devin Hester, of course, that notable kickoff return. I believe it was one in the Super Bowl.
Yep, it was Bears and Colts in Miami, I believe.
Yep, I remember that one. I was rooting for Indy in that one because, of course, it was Peyton Manning's first trip.
I also just didn't know which team to really root for, but I was just like, whatever, it's the Super Bowl. Because at the time, I wasn't that invested because my team sucked for 10 years.
Oh yeah, I was even while I was also with the Commanders, I was a diehard Peyton Manning fan. He was one of my all-time favorite players. So
gotta flick the poker, man.
Stoked when we beat Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game to get there, and there was a funny thing that was going on right around that year. I was a junior in high school. I had people in my high school class telling me that, and it started with Wild Card Weekend. They were saying that all the Kansas City Chiefs were going to run all over, and actually we had taken on the Chiefs in the Wild Card that year because we were the 3 seed. They was like, "Oh, the Chiefs are going to run all over us." And we were last in stopping the run in the regular season. But not if what Bob Sanders, the Eraser, had anything to say about that. Then the next week with Baltimore, they're like, "Oh, Baltimore's going to beat us. Oh, Baltimore's going to beat the Colts." Nope. And then they were like, "Oh, the Patriots. That one couple major plays got there, and then everyone's like, "Oh, the Bears." I'm like, no, we are facing train Rex Grossman at quarterback, who at 2 different points in that regular season had a quarterback rating of 1.3 and a Krispy Kreme. Yes, there were 2 different games in that 2006-2007 season where Rex Grossman had a quarterback rating of less than 5. And the Bears still got to the Super Bowl.
Yep. All right.
And then Patrick Willis also had a really impactful yet short career.
Yeah. I was just about to ask if I could do the next two.
Hey, go for it.
All right. So the former Kansas City Chief Tyreek Hill agrees to a restructured $90 million deal. I was gonna have this as an honorable mention for a dud earlier, but then I thought, maybe not in good taste, because I remember Tyreek Hill saying that he wanted to become a adult film star after he was done with the Dolphins. It could happen still. I mean, he is in Florida. That's a big market for that kind of thing. But anyways, I thought it was good on him to get.
They're also a really good market for crazy people.
Florida man.
Yep, I said it.
I mean, you're not far off. He's got like almost 5 or 6 baby mamas by this point, and yeah, he was a handful even with the Chiefs. Almost was out for a season because of this whole like abuse thing he had with his kid.
Yeah.
Turns out his ex at that point was crazy. But anyways, a current Chief still that is also a little controversial at the moment. Harrison Butker is now the NFL's richest kicker, signing a 3-year deal, I believe.
I will defer any jokes because that could open up a can of worms.
I guess.
No, you knew where I was going to go with that.
Yeah, I know. But he now is the highest paid NFL kicker, and I think behind him is Justin Tucker, I believe, right?
I think it's Justin Tucker, and I think Tucker definitely, when his career is all said and done, a future Hall of Famer. But I wouldn't be surprised if he also kicks. Justin Tucker, I think, definitely will likely kick into his 40s.
Yeah, I think Vinatieri kicked into his late 40s, didn't he?
Oh, Vinatieri... Kickers have... Because there is not as much strain on the kickers, and especially with this new kickoff rule, that there's going to be probably even less if the tackling gets done very well. I think Tucker could very well, as long as he's got the distance to be able to do it, I think he could kick very deep into his he could kick deep into his 40s. And Vinatieri definitely is a future Hall of Famer in his own right.
All right,
get Vinatieri in, get Justin Tucker in. And I think once we get through all that, we roll that beautiful tumbleweed footage as we get into our Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, boy. All right. What is good in sports this week, Spennis?
And all of our good, bad, and the ugly are baseball themed.
Yeah, I
this
don't know
week.
how the hell we managed that, but here we are.
Well, we kind of did. Well, I think because a lot of our high heat was kind of drawn away from baseball, I think baseball we kind of needed to throw it somewhere. And our good this week goes to none other than Blake Snell, as Snellzilla gets his first no-no of his career.
I wonder if he would have gotten traded during the deadline, if it would have been a different story. Obviously, he didn't, but that would have been insane.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I think that the avoiding dealing him, because the Giants were kind of on the borderline anyway of contention. I think them hanging on to Blake Snell put them in a good position to be able to do that. And Blake Snell is a really good pitcher. Really good, has got a Cy Young in each league now. I am more shocked that teams just underrate him a little bit.
Well, he's better on the second half of the season, statistically, compared to the first part of the season.
There's that, but then at the same time, I think that Blake Snell is just... He's a left-handed pitcher with a bunch of multiple good pitches that he can use. And he's also got a charisma outside of the game too, with his Twitch channel. So he not only can do it playing video games, but also on the mound.
Yep.
So he's got game.
And then,
But now,
go ahead.
But now we can get into also, unless you had something else to say, the not so good, the bad.
I was wondering if you wanted me to go for the bad this week.
Yep, I was just about to throw it to you.
All right, cool. The bad in sports this week: Mike Trout out for the season with a torn meniscus. It's bad enough that he has a injury that's going to linger with them for the rest of his career, but another blow being a torn meniscus. I was almost gonna say we could have put it at the ugly, but we saved that for last. But this is a huge blow for the Angels.
Yep. But I overall am going to say this. Mike Trout is not a Hall of Famer. He will never be a Hall of Famer. Because injuries are so much there for a position of what could have been. Because I think
go ahead.
Because I think I even DM'd you a good bit back in talking of other numbers with that.
Yeah.
Because and I ultimately was saying that he is, because I simply said that as good of a player Mike Trout is, health and lack of great team performances will hold him back from sniffing Cooperstown. And then I looked at you and said the contract is too large. His contract is too large for any team to take. I think he's going to be an Angel for life. 11-time All-Star. Okay. That portion right there, yes, that could scream a Hall of Famer. Rookie of the Year and a 3-time MVP. That also can support it. But here's what hurts him. He has the Silver Sluggers to back it up. He has some Silver Sluggers to back it up. But he has less than 400 home runs. He's only broken 100 RBIs 3 times. And with him having a reputation with being a Silver Slugger, with having Silver Sluggers, normally if you're having like multiple Silver Sluggers, you should be over the 400 threshold right now. Especially at this deep into your career. And defensively, he has no Gold Gloves. No Gold Gloves to his name. So there's not enough to support a truly Cooperstown-like career for Mike Trout. And the injuries just help his cause even less.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Because it reminds me of the days when the Royals extended Mike Sweeney, and then he would be like paper bones most of the time. And if you thought Mondesi was bad, Sweeney was like on a whole nother level whenever I was growing up looking up to Mike Sweeney. Also another fun fact about Mike Trout, when the Angels were in the playoffs and they were the 1 seed, the Royals swept the ever-loving crap out of the Angels in the ALDS. And we thought we were kind of screwed. But it turns out, late inning heroics, one game after another, really helped with taking out the Angels. And ever since then, Mike Trout hasn't even sniffed the playoffs with the Angels. And they could have gotten closer if they had a healthy Otani and didn't crumble, but here we are. I feel like in general the Angels franchise, whenever they sign like a big ass contract to a guy that just got off a World Series victory or someone that is coming off a really hot season with another club, they end up either one doing horribly or number two, they are just injury prone. Like Anthony Rendon, after he won a World Series with the Nationals in 2019, signed with the Los Angeles Angels, and ever since then has been injured and hurt. Another example of the terribleness is Albert Pujols. Literally went from a team that has primarily red colors to another team with primary red colors. But the difference was it was the AL versus the NL. Cardinals to the Los Angeles Angels, and he did not have a home run for the first month of the season, or 2 months.
It took Pujols a little bit to get going, but I don't think you count out the career of Pujols.
Right. I just wanted people to remember the fact that he did not have a good start with the Angels at all.
Oh, wow. A little bit of breaking news I'm seeing here. That new Jackie Robinson statue was unveiled in Wichita. The one that the guy tore down.
Messed up.
Yep. So there's that.
Nice.
But, and I am not even going to mention the score of the Royals game right now. Just for your sake. Just for your sake.
Oh, we're okay. Top of the seventh, 4-2 Boston. But anyways,
yep.
What is
and now the ugly. Week? The ugly is a losing streak for the Chicago White Sox. They are
let's say those Sox are not white anymore. They're more like blood red.
They are on a 20-game losing streak. So they set their franchise record. They set their franchise record at 14 earlier, and they have exceeded it with another lengthy streak. This one began with a doubleheader loss in Game 2 against the Twins on July 10th. They have not won a game since July 10th. It went through the All-Star break and is carried into August. There are only 2 teams that are currently in front of them. And there has not been a single losing streak over 20 games since 1988, when the Baltimore Orioles lost 21 straight to start the 1988 season.
Yeah, the White Sox, I don't know what the hell happened with them. It seems like they kind of traded places with the Royals because the Royals last year were god awful. And I think we maybe had like 40 wins last season and had our worst losing record ever. And this year we're like neck and neck with the Twins when it comes to the wild card. And last time I checked, we were tied for the third or second spot in the wild card. And my God, we are doing a lot better. I think it also helps that we didn't just have like bottom of the barrel starting pitching / rookie starting pitching, because you had Singer and a few other guys, but the youth movement for the pitching was probably not the biggest answer to that call. But bringing in veterans like Lugo, Waka, and I think, man, why am I butchering this? I think that's it. Lugo, Waka, and then you have Reagans, which has been on a tear since we got him from a trade from the Rangers for Chapman last season. And then you got Alec Marsh and Brady Singer, and they've been really good. Last year was Brad Keller, which he was the apparent ace of the Royals, and he was god awful. But anyways, the ugly this week is the White Sox.
And on top of that, that was just the American League record. The record in baseball for losses is to the 1961 Philadelphia Phillies. So they are 4 losses in a row away from having the longest losing streak in baseball. Currently, right now, the White Sox are in Oakland, and they are currently trailing early on against the Athletics 1-0 in the top of the second inning with 1 out.
Wait, they're up 1-0?
No. The White Sox are losing 1-0. They are currently down to the Oakland Athletics 1-0 in the top of the second. And of course, the only reason why that game is being played so late is because it's on the West Coast.
California knows how to party. All right.
Although that team will no longer be there within the next year.
Anyway.
All right. So now we move on to the high heat. In talking about the Paris Olympics again. And this is as of August 5th. Today, which is technically the recording date of this episode.
Yes, sir.
Notable American medals. USA Swimming puts a grand total of 28 medals together, including 8 of them being gold. Noah Lyles, 5/1000ths of a second, wins the men's 100-meter dash. And Simone Biles won the women's all-around. Notable medals outside the United States. Novak Djokovic defeats Carlos Alcaraz for men's tennis singles gold. Yaroslava Mahuchkic wins Ukraine's first individual gold in the high jump. And we will mention more of things involving Leo Marchand and his run swimming-wise, as he has 5 medals total. The medal counts right now, the U.S. leads all medal counts with 78 total, including 20 golds. China and France round out the top 3 with 53 and 47 medals respectively. China leads the gold medal total with 21. China's Zhang Yufei leads all individual medalists with 6 total medals, but Leon Marchand, with his 5 medals, 4 of them are gold, which is the most golds for an Olympian currently. And we have about a week left of the Olympics.
Let me ask you a question, Spennis.
Yep.
Do you think the Olympics are rigged because the medals could be made in China?
No. I don't think the medals are rigged. You realize also that China is the world's most populated country.
Yes. So is India, or India is one of the more populated countries too.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're talking the most populous countries in the world. In terms of largest population, you have China, India, and the United States in the top 3. China at 1.3 billion, 1.39 billion. India at 1.35 billion. US at 328 million. Then you have Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, and Nigeria. And Japan has a good population at 126 million, which is 6, 7, 8, which is 10th. But the US has so many athletes to be able to qualify, which is why there's so many gold medals or so many medals in general going there. Plus, the US is full of very talented athletes.
Yes, it is.
And a melting pot for so many cultures, too, that also choose American citizenship. But now that we have the Olympics covered, we now can move on to another major series of high heats, as this is the first of 4 in our NFL, well, really the first of 5 in our NFL training camp preview series. What we are going to do for each of these teams is kind of break down a small little take that each of us have and kind of have a little bit of friendly debate over them.
Yes, sir.
The first one, we're going to start with the AFC South. And everything here in this episode, we'll talk about the southern divisions of the NFL. And the AFC and NFC South. The AFC South consists of the Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Houston Texans. Last year's winner of the division was the Houston Texans, and no other team made the playoffs.
Yep.
The first team we will be
and no other NFL fan thought that the Texans were gonna be as good as they were, but all right, let's keep going.
And our first team we will be talking about here for the AFC South is the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, my take is I think if you keep the offense healthy, especially Anthony Richardson with Jonathan Taylor and Pittman, you'll be fine. But we will see how that rolls for them.
Okay. I believe that depth is going to be their biggest challenge. As the Colts did lose Zach Moss to the Bengals. But at wide receiver, you've got Michael Pittman, you've got Josh Downs. Adonai Mitchell could very well be somebody who can step up. They got Laquan Treadwell, Mo Alley Cox. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you still have DeForest Buckner as the centerpiece. Of that defense, you got Julian Blackmon at the safety, Kenny Moore, Jalen Jones at corner. So they have some decent pieces to go along with what they have. But I think the depth is going to be an issue. And I think QB1 for them is going to be Anthony Richardson, with QB2 likely going to be old Joe Flacco.
Oh, the Colts signed him. I forgot about
Yep.
that. I thought
They have Joe Flacco. Yep, but I believe the key will be a healthy Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and Michael Pittman. especially more so on Richardson and Taylor. I think the Colts are going to be a little more of a running team. And I think that Shane Steichen offensively, I think they will come up with a bunch of creative things offensively to throw in some wrinkles that could put the Colts very well in the wild card hunt.
I agree.
The next team up is the Tennessee Titans.
All right, so what I put in there for my analysis is I believe the defense will carry the offense, more than likely because L'Jarius Sneed got traded over to the Titans, and he was looking for a big contract, and I think he'll be taking charge of the secondary for them.
All right. So for me, where I am looking at for the Tennessee Titans, I have that they have invested heavily into multiple areas. Defensive back in getting L'Jarius Sneed, wide receiver with having DeAndre Hopkins available from last year. You still have Treylon Burks. You still have Calvin. You brought in Calvin Ridley. So they have, and then they've invested, like they've basically put in a good amount of a spending spree, and they weren't even done there. They got Quandre Diggs, and then best in the nation, Jamal Adams. And Nick Folk is now kicking there. I think he's been kicking there, but they've had, and they also have Mason Rudolph from Pittsburgh. And Tony Pollard ended up there.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
And Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is no longer a Cincinnati Bengal.
He is going to the legendary place where wide receivers die.
Well, I am going to say this. I don't expect that. Because this is also their first year without Derrick Henry. So I expect this offense to pass more. I think you will see a larger percentage of pass plays from a Brian Callahan type of offense for the Titans. Will they still run the ball a bit? Yes. But I think Tony Pollard will also find a way to make some catches out of the backfield. So I expect the amount of pass plays to go up for the Tennessee Titans. And this will truly test the mettle of Will Levis. If he folds, more than likely that backup spot is probably going to go to a Mason Rudolph more than it would Malik Willis.
All right then.
We now move over to Duval and talk about the Jaguars.
I think the offense will be a lot better with the key upgrade in Gabe Davis. They lost Calvin Ridley in free agency, but I think they upgraded a little bit with Gabe Davis, and I think they also signed. Who else did the? Let me see. We're talking about Duval Nation.
We are talking about the Jaguars.
So the roster, come on, NFL.com. Don't take me down. They signed Gabe Davis. They also signed Devin Duvernay. They also signed. Come on. I think it was Devin Duvernay and him, and then they also have Mac Jones on the roster as well as a backup. You still have Christian Kirk. Yeah, got Denzel Mims.
Evan Ingram.
Yep, Evan Ingram. I think they have a chance if they can keep it up.
Well, here's where I am with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They also drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. But the key will be the health of the Duval defense. That will be paramount for them to return to the success of 2022-2023. Defense got them into the AFC Championship game in 2017. And not what the and I've watched entirely too much The Good Place. I actually completed the series. Have you know what I'm talking about with one of the characters being like a huge obsessed Jaguars fan?
I didn't really watch it, but I will let you make the lead.
Yeah, but this is just exactly what needs to be paramount for Jacksonville to succeed. And no, it was never Blake Bortles. It was never Blake Bortles. The defense was what was paramount for the Jaguars, and I think that side of the ball is going to be the difference between victory and defeats. And now we can move on to the reigning, defending, undisputed AFC South champions, the Houston Texans.
I think so. Hear me out. For the Texans, I think of it kind of like Mahomes' first actual full season with the Chiefs, where you have a wall of weapons. Obviously, for Stroud, no one really knew like how well he would be his first season. The same could be technically said for the Chiefs with Mahomes whenever he did his first kind of breakout near the end of 2017, going into 2018. But Mahomes got some weapons with Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Chris Conley, Demarcus Robinson, and then also had a running game of Kareem Hunt and Damian Williams and Demarcus Ware and a few others. But for the Texans,
So Marcus Ware,
or maybe I'm thinking,
I believe it was Spencer Ware.
yeah, Spencer Ware. My bad. Thank you for the correction there before I got yelled at by the keyboard warriors in the comment section.
DeMarcus Ware was a Hall of Famer on the other side of the football, my guy.
Okay. Anyways, point being, Stroud now has a wall of weapons. And besides Tank Dell and Nico Collins, you now have Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, and you still have Dalton Schultz at tight end, who just signed a contract extension last season. And I think the sky's the limit for the Texans.
Let's look at this a step further. Running back is going to be critical for them on the offensive side of the ball to go along with it. But they also made very, very reasonable investments on the defensive side of the ball. Daniil Hunter, Jeff Okudah, and plus they've built up a ton from what they already had. And my key for the Texans is that they are a heavy favorite for a deep run. They have invested in upgrades in multiple areas that, on paper, are highly beneficial. But as to how deep they will go, will be more so in how well these improvements gel and kind of mesh and work themselves in to what the Texans had already had in a young core that was able to work incredibly well together last season. Simple as that. And I think D'Amico Ryans is the guy that can do that.
Amen.
And we both also said that the Texans will win the AFC South. However, the way of which they do that will be different. And you have said that the Titans or the Jaguars will be in a tight race with Houston. And I think the Texans are going to kind of take care of business quickly.
Every day?
But a bold prediction from the division. Ruckus, what you got?
I got the Texans facing the Chiefs in the AFC Divisional. Does this mean that it could be at NRG Stadium, or could it be at Arrowhead? We will find out.
My thoughts here, though I think it's entirely possible, my hunch says that I think they will be on opposite sides of the bracket. As for mine, Will Levis. I went with a Titans prediction. Will Levis will finish the season with at least 3,500 passing yards. That offense with the numerous amount of weapons, I think Will Levis and the increased amount of times that they will need to pass the ball, I think will give him an ample opportunity to see that number. And now we move over to the NFC South.
Yes, sir. All right, I'll start.
The NFC South contains the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, and Carolina Panthers, with the defending champions being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was a very, very close division race a year ago.
Yep. All right, I'll start. My bad.
And we will talk about the defending champs.
Here are the Bucks. I think that Baker and crew need to repeat or be better than last year, not to be considered a fluke. Especially because if it wasn't for the Eagles tanking near the end of the season, maybe the Bucks would have been knocked out early. But I think Baker and crew just need to stay healthy. That's the bottom line there.
My take with the Buccaneers will be, in order to repeat as division champs, I believe there is one unit that will need to have a major improvement or a major filling in of big shoes. And that is the linebackers. A lot of their linebacking core, Levante David is still there, but the other ends of his linebacking core of Devin White and Shaq Mason. Or was it Shaq Mason or was it Shaq Barrett? Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett. Shaq Mason was an offensive lineman.
Yes,
Shaq Barrett. Those two have since come and gone. And I believe that the linebackers are going to be where Tampa Bay will win and lose games this season. We now talk about probably one of the two teams that was contending for that divisional title who have just gone through a major quarterback change. The Atlanta Falcons.
All right. Hot take. Here we go. Please, for the love of God, or for the love of Kirk O'Chains, show us why you made such a controversial move at quarterback. Especially when your first pick from the draft was a quarterback in
the 8th overall slot,
Yep. Which was
Michael Penix Jr.
Michael Penix Jr.
But
Yeah.
is it really controversial though?
Yes.
Or is it potential Green Bay genius? Or is
I
it
don't know.
genius?
Atlanta was pissed off. The city of Atlanta was pissed off at the fact that Penix was picked and not someone else that they could have used or gotten more value out of.
Didn't we have the exact same thing a few years ago about Jordan Love? That's why I'm saying, like, it may be controversial now, but maybe about 2-3 years later, is it really genius?
We will have to find out.
But this season, I am actually looking not at the quarterback situation, because there could be some genius involved with that. And if worse comes to worse, they've got Taylor Heineke, so I'm not overly worried. Michael Penix Jr. is quarterback 3. So they severely reached. However, I digress. This season is a put up or shut up year for 2 major pass targets that Kirk Cousins will be throwing the football to. And that is Drake London, and more so than Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Yes, I'm saying it. Why am I saying that this is a put up or shut up year for both of these guys? They have dealt with such bad quarterback play over their time in Atlanta. They have dealt with the irrelevance of the passing game when Arthur Smith was the coach of Atlanta. You now have a quarterback that is going to be able to figure out a way to get you the ball, and Kirk Cousins loves passing to those tight ends. I think we're going to eventually talk about this more in the AFC North, and granted that there's also an injury to him on top of that, but I think TJ Hawkinson, even when he comes back, I think his amount of pass targets are going to go down. Because Kirk Cousins is not throwing him the football. Kirk Cousins loves to throw to the tight end and get him the ball. So yes, if you're not playing well, Kyle Pitts, I'm sure you're going to be having the first one-way ticket out of Atlanta. And having to find your success elsewhere because you're already right now being known as a draft bust. Not necessarily bona fide scrub, but a draft bust. Especially for how high you were picked. Which, if I remember this correctly, Kyle Pitts was picked very high in the first round. Yeah, he was picked 4th overall in 2021 by Atlanta. A tight end generally never gets picked that high. And now we move on to the Bayou and the New Orleans Saints.
Speaking of Bayous, I think Derek Carr needs to show why he belongs in the Bayou, along with Equanimous St. Brown. Pretty much just keep those wide receivers healthy, because you got Rashid Shaheed dealing with some injury woes. Equanimous didn't play all that much with the Bears last season, and they just gotta be healthy, and Carr has gotta be protected as well. That's all I've got for the Saints.
If this season goes too far left for the New Orleans Saints, be prepared for the entry of notable position battle winners in backup slots to get a shot to step up, especially on offense. Some notable names that I would be looking at to see as a potential step-up option. At quarterback, Spencer Rattler. At running back, Kendre Miller. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they go to the first swag Kazakage in Jamal Williams. Some notable backups at wide receiver that may see a little bit here. Marquez Callaway. Samson Nakua. Looking like the older brother of Puka. I think even Equinemius St. Brown is a possibility. Or even Cedric Wilson. Jawan Johnson. Although I think he's primarily the tight end there now. If Taysom Hill's not in there. But then I think they lack a little bit of depth on the defensive side. Demario Davis and being healthy has got to be critical, but Demario Davis is also 35. So he's on his last legs. Marshawn Lattimore is aging as a corner. So they've got a lot of older players in that corner, especially even at safety with the Honey Badger.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I think Tyrann Mathieu has his Super Bowl already. And I think as far as a retirement point, we don't need to go down on that whimper. Honey Badger at this point is not going to care. And last but not least, we now move to the Carolina Panthers.
All I'm going to say about the Panthers is don't repeat what Frank Wright started last season, because that was a shit show for the Panthers. And it was still that, but hopefully things look up for them. We will see. Spennis, what do you got?
I am serving another put up or shut up notice. This put up or shut up notice goes to Miles Sanders. This is a put up or shut up year, especially as Chuba Hubbard very well could surpass him on the depth chart if Chuba Hubbard has not done so already. And I think that Chuba Hubbard is probably going to be the feature back by the time the season is done. It's not my bold prediction, but I think it's definitely possible.
Yep. All right, so for the winner, I had the Falcons finding the golden ticket over the Saints.
I don't even think the Saints get there. I think the Falcons very late in the season will find a way to get by Tampa Bay. I think that Kirk Cousins was just the right piece that the Atlanta needed to push themselves into a potential position of really contending for the postseason. But I think Tampa Bay, as far as the wild card, can very well be right there. And the bold predictions for each of us are...
I have Baker getting a setback with a major injury early in the season.
And I am predicting my first potential Black Monday casualty. I am predicting that Saints coach Dennis Allen will be fired by season's end. So I predict that by Black Monday, Dennis Allen will no longer have a coaching job.
All right, now we get into our stud and duds of the week.
Yep.
I'll start it
Well,
off.
Well, I'm gonna kind of transition this over as well in saying that we conclude the AFC and NFC South here next week. Next week, we will be doing the AFC and NFC North, which is a very entertaining set of 8 teams. Granted that both of us have teams in the Eastern Division and the Western Division, so we're going to focus on those a little later. The AFC and NFC North will be next week's pair of divisions. And now with that said, we move on to our stud and dud of the week. Ruckus, start us off.
All right, my stud this week is MJ Melendez for crushing a go-ahead 3-run blast to give the Royals the lead with 2 outs against the Detroit Tigers on Sunday afternoon. And this is also the first time he was ever pitch hitting, so even better to give the Royals a 3-2 lead over the Tigers. And then my dud this week is Jordan Addison being charged with a DUI a month after the July 12th incident where he was found asleep at the wheel blocking traffic at Los Angeles International Airport on the highway.
That key word there in this case is formally charged. Not formerly, formally charged with taking his official charge. But my stud this week, I'm going to start with the honorable mention in going back to the Olympics with American golfer Scottie Scheffler entering round 4 of the men's golf event. He was down by 4 shots off the lead. By the time he got to the back 9, he was down 6 strokes. He rallied back, scoring a gold medal winning 9 under 62 in the last round to put himself at top the podium. And early on, Xander Schauffele was probably the favorite for the Americans to eventually get it. And Rory McIlroy, I believe, also finished in the top 5. But the real stud this week goes to the 1985 Bears teammates of Steve McMichael. Now, notably with Steve McMichael, he was not at the ceremony due to his battle with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. But around his hospital bed, his teammates showed up in a special Hall of Fame ceremony inside the hospital. And Steve McMichael was shown his Hall of Fame bust. There it was revealed by his wife and his daughter. Or daughter and granddaughter, something along those lines. 2 relatives. But teammates that were there included Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, and I even saw Riverboat Ron Rivera there. And then my dud. While you had a dummy of the week for yours, Ruckus, I had a severe underperformance. The U.S. men's basketball 3-on-3 team taking a swift exit in qualifying, falling to 2-5, and Jimmer Fredette suffering an adductor injury during the event, and it kind of affected how he played. And there was also a relative of Rick Barry on that team, and they still didn't get very far. I'm wondering if they eventually open up the 3v3 to some of the NBA players after all, because I think the 5v5 is open to NBA players, I believe the 3v3 is not. So I wonder how far down the line it's going to take for ultimately some of those players that may not qualify for the 5v5 to eventually go on and play in the 3v3. As far as NBA players go. I'm wondering how long it's going to take for that.
I think it'd be cooler if they did like a mix of WNBA and NBA players for the 3v3.
I think that would be a decent mix, but the problem is that the men's game and the women's game, as far as like truly playing like a good mixed co-ed type scenario, is a little more difficult because the men's game is much more athletic and more dynamic as far as going high. The women, on the other hand, are more of that poetry in motion type of play. So I don't know how that necessarily would work in a co-ed 3v3 environment. Just because of the type of game and the differences. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. This is a Ruckus and The Menace Sports production. Thank you for watching or listening to this video, episode number 109. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
We'll see you later.
Deuces.